Ah, yes, we're good. Okay, we're live, Zoe. We're live.
Hello. Oh gosh.
Oh
Okay.
gosh, that's
Have to
it.
behave then.
Yeah, better behave.
Yeah.
Yeah, look busy. Look busy, shall we?
Look busy.
Look busy. Look, we got little Lizzie there.
Yeah, hi Lizzie.
We got little Lizzie. Amazing, lovely. Good. Okay, well, we'll sort of officially launch off in just a few minutes, just to give a bit of space for some people to come in. But I think actually we could almost just start off by talking about your cup, because we just felt that we wanted to get a bit of water, and Zoe is drinking from an actual Summerhill cup here, which I'm feeling a little bit jealous about. Have any of you guys got a Summerhill cup with you? That would have been the ultimate thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, she's got one.
Yeah. Jay looks like she might be going to get one. Oh. she is.
Do we give prizes to people that have a
Summerhill mug? Yeah. Our technician Giles sitting here is very jealous. He's very, very jealous.
Yeah, borrow that mug.
You have to borrow the mug. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, she's got one.
She's got one. Yeah.
Is it the same one? What does yours say on it?
Is it the same quote? It is the same quote.
Yes, I think it is. The future of Summerhill itself might be of little importance. Is that one right?
No, the one you've got is different, Zoe. We've got two different quotes. The future of Summerhill itself, we're going to bring into this talk in a few minutes, actually. But
my mug says, "No one is wise enough or good enough to mold the character of any child. What is wrong with our sick, neurotic world is that we have been molded, and an adult generation that has seen 2 great wars and seems about to launch a 3rd should not be trusted to mold the character of a rat."
Are they available online, these mugs?
I don't know. You'd have to write to the office. I'm not sure. I know we've got our shop on our new website will be available, but I'm not sure if it is yet. But Sheila, you live down the road. Just call in at the office and buy one.
Yeah, you can come and
I think we've got a few still.
You can come and get one from the office. Exactly. You're local, Sheila. You're local. Yeah. Amazing.
Oh, look, they've got one too. Lizzie's got one too. Oh, look, they've all.
Look, they've got their Summerhill mugs as well. Look, little Lizzie's got
What does it say on yours, Paul?
This one is the future of Summerhill itself.
Yeah.
Maybe little important, but the Summerhill idea of the greatest importance of humanity. New generations must be given the chance to grow in freedom. The bestowal of freedom is the bestowal of love.
Yeah.
Only love can save the world.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool. Good one.
Beautiful.
Good one. Well, that's a good one to kick off this chat about, really, isn't it?
It is,
Because
isn't it? That's kind of what we thought. We could.
we're kind of just talking about 100 years of the bestowal of love.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
whether it really can change the world. I'm not sure if we want to go there.
I think firstly with this session, we want to be talking about the celebration, the centenary. 100 years of Summerhill School is a very, very personally, from Summerhill's perspective, of course, it's a phenomenal achievement. And I think Zoe could tell us some stories about those, but we won't go too deep to some of those stories because we don't want, because Zoe's been spending quite a few years recovering from some of those difficult times that Summerhill's been through. But we might be able to reflect on some of those. But I think also, to a certain extent, we wanted to bring the audience. We wanted to sort of celebrate with the audience of what, to a certain extent, what Summerhill. 100 years of Summerhill means to you as well, and so we'd like to sort of have a bit of an open conversation and have you sharing things as well that you feel, whether it's inspired you, whether it's what in whatever ways, or even if you never heard of it and you have suddenly discovered it, and
or asking questions. Or asking questions.
Or asking questions. Exactly. Of course.
Would be good.
So that was the idea. We didn't really want to put anything too rigid about this session.
So I'll start off by being the interviewer. Henry, what does 100 years of Summerhill mean to you? No pressure.
I think first of all, thinking about the fact that we've managed to survive 100 years is the trust and the faith we can have that the idea works. And I think that this is what I like about that quote, is that when we talk about the Summerhill idea, we're obviously Summerhill itself is the purity of it, but the most important thing is that this idea is being celebrated and used by all of us around the world. And I think that when you're looking at the fact that it's 100 years old, you're then looking at the fact that we can last another 100 years old. And in fact, isn't it about time that the world sees this and starts implementing this in a broader perspective for humanity?
But that was kind of what I was saying yesterday. I think it's really important that people from, and this is such a broad festival, there are so many people from different areas of childhood, but everybody who's involved with this festival has the same aim at heart. And I think what's really important about Summerhill being 100 years old is that you can make use of that, anytime you need to justify what you're doing, anytime you get caught up with bureaucracy or even just an argumentative neighbor or a friend, you have got that. Summerhill's been doing this for 100 years, and I think it empowers everybody else in a way to be able to say, this is not just some silly idea I've got in my head. This is not just some newfangled, let's all just let the children be free. This is not some 1960s hippie system. This is something that actually was founded in 1921 when the world was a very different place. So I think that
it survived through all of those generations, through all of those changes, through all of the pressures and all of those things, and the faith and the trust in childhood and in children
with the fundamentals intact,
has been there all the way through, all the way through. I think another thing that I'm going to add to it as well is, and I think that this is for everybody in the audience really, that many of you, I would think probably all of you, in some form or another, have been trying to implement, have seen similar, when we're talking about freedom, we're talking about equality, we're talking about the trust in childhood, we're talking about free play. We're not talking about Summerhill exactly in the methodologies. It's not about that. It's about childhood. And all of you have stood up to the rigidity of the system and said, we don't want to do it in that way anymore. And have to struggle to a certain extent to be able to implement those in whichever ways. It's not always easy, whether it's in the family life or whether it's in working in a school. If you're a teacher working in a state system and you want to be able to massage those restrictions and try to create more freedom for childhood, it's not so easy. And I think people who are starting schools, and I think all of these things, and for me, that's another thing that I think is a very important thing that Summerhill is, when you're talking about the beacon to a certain extent, that the fact that people can then sort of refer to it and say, yes, but look.
Exactly.
And to use
when
it
you're
in that
arguing
way.
with your head teacher because you let the children call you by your first name or whatever the head teacher's angry about, it gives you some empowerment to be able to say, there is a school that's been doing this for 100 years and it's fine. It's fine. We're not turning out terrible people.
Yeah. Well, I don't think so anyway. Not all of us anyway. Not all of us are terrible. So, but I just wondered, do you want to reflect back a little bit on your time, even as principal, thinking back to A.S.Neill of what you're, being a child when being part of the school. Maybe I don't know what your knowledge of how that journey has been of sort of the survival.
I mean, without getting into a personal story, I've seen all sides of it, which most people have not been able to do. So I was born in the house at Summerhill School during term time, and so I experienced it as a very small child, as a pupil, but also as my home, and then I continued at school until at the age of 16 when I left, but I still remained living at my parents' house, which is just on the campus. So I was in effect still here. And I've been involved with the school sort of on and off. I took a bit of a break when I was having my own children, but then very soon they joined Summerhill as well. and then I took over as principal. So I've been a parent, I've been a principal, I've been a pupil. So I've experienced quite a broad range, which most people will not have been able to do. And it's been a ball. Frankly, it's been a ball. You know, yeah, we had to take on the government. Yeah, we had to fight it. Yeah, we've had terrible press. Yeah, we've had awful films made about us. Yeah, we've been pilloried by the media all of the time that I've been alive. You know, I've watched the people that I love most in my life, my family, being pilloried by the media. And but it's been a ball. You know, it's just such an amazing place. And every day that I drive in, I still think, wow.
Yeah.
So there's not much else to say about it, really. Yeah. But it has been an interesting experience to see how, because Summerhill has remained true to its principles, its founding principles, it has remained the same. But obviously it has moved forward or backwards into the modern world, and it's taken on pretty well everything that's been thrown at it. You know, so we now have a world with children using the internet, whereas when I was a child, you know, we didn't have access to a telephone unless you walked down into the local town. So obviously there have been huge changes there. But I think that's what makes me realize what a powerful philosophy the whole Summerhill philosophy is, that it does adapt. It works with every generation. So whichever, you know, I was a child of the 60s, we were all clothes off and flowers and woo woo and having fun, and that was great. Well, I wasn't really a child then, I was a teenager, which was the time to enjoy the 60s. And Summerhill embraced that and argued about things and got things right. And then again, you know, during the 70s and the 80s and then having to go to court and everything, it's survived all that because it works, because it's such a good idea and it's so fundamental. It's actually the way people all over the world need and want to live. We just live as decent, nice human beings living in a group together, and we make decisions together and we get on well. And if we don't, we bring up a case and we make sure that we have justice. And it's just so simple. It's just so simple. I don't know why. And yet we have all of these governments all over the world getting it so wrong and being so authoritative and being so petty and being such liars and being such cheats. And I think, why? This is just so simple. This is the way human beings want and need to live. I have nothing more to say. Nothing more to say.
Yeah. I think just to go back a little bit, you were saying about how Summerhill changes with the times. I think that one thing I find really interesting, and I'm sure lots of people are finding this now as well, is that, you know, people are talking so much now about a new system of education that we can implement in the world. And I find it really funny that people sort of think, okay, so that this system of education came around for a specific job, and then we're going to look at another one that's going to look at the next job. And I sort of think, in the end, what we do is we've created a school that changes every day. We don't need to create a new, you know, if you look at Summerhill, yes, today and 20 years ago, it has changed. Of course it has, because the world has changed and it's been needed to change, but the philosophy hasn't.
But it's adapted rather than
adapted. It's changed. You're right.
You know, in a way, it doesn't actually change. The fundamentals are so basic. Yeah. You know, freedom, not license, taking responsibility for your actions. They're just so fundamental that they don't actually change whatever's happening in the world, but they do adapt. You're right, you know, because it's organic. Yeah, because it's organic. Each term that comes along, there's a new. So I wrote a book called Barefoot in November, and about 3 weeks later than that, the meeting brought in the law to say the little children had to wear shoes in the snow. That's, you know, That's just because
You have to change the title of your book, Zoe. We're talking about your book tomorrow. We're talking about the book tomorrow.
But
We'll
I
come
mean,
back to that.
It adapts to whatever the problem is. So even, each winter term is different to each summer term because we have different issues and different problems and different things arise. So that's why I think it's just so brilliant with the way it adapts.
Yeah.
But it actually remains the same all the time.
But we have this. We have the children's democracy. We have a situation where, exactly as you said, computers come in. So what happens? New things are created. Devices come in. We now have little children who have phones. What actually happens? Well, we create laws. We figure out what works for the community with that new thing. So constantly it's evolving all the time, so that children are playing with the ball all the time of these new things. And that constant evolution is something that I think is so powerful.
But I think something that's really important about Summerhill that has endured for its 100 years is Summerhill recognises that it is a school. This is not a community. This is not a commune. This is not a free-for-all. This is not an anarchy. It is a school. And fundamentally, it has to survive as a school. And that means sometimes, if you take this COVID thing, for example, we have had to do what we were required to do. We've had to follow government guidelines, whether we like it or not, because if we don't follow government guidelines, we will not get insurance, and therefore the school can't run. The pupils have come back to school and they've embraced that. It was us, the adults, who said, you can't go downtown. It was us, the adults, who said, we've got to wear masks, we've got to have divisions, we've got to have bubbles. We made that decision because we had to make that decision in order to open the school for the term. And the community is just fine about it. If that's what you have to do in order to get by, then that's what we'll do. And I think that's a really important part of Summerhill's long-term longevity, its long-term survival, has been the fact that there is a recognition that this is a school, and sometimes we have to make some compromises. But our main point has been that we're not prepared to make compromises about the big things. So when we have school inspectors, and everybody probably knows that in the UK we get inspected about every 3 years by government school inspectors. When we have those inspections, there will be small things that they will require of us. And we will probably do them because we're not rebels. We're not sitting here waving our banners and saying we want complete freedom, because we understand we can't do that. But what we want to do is to preserve our fundamental rights at Summerhill, which is the freedom not licensed, the freedom not to attend classes, the fact that the boys and girls live on the same corridors, and so on and so forth. Those things we will fight to the death for. But if we have to make small changes and keep a bit more paperwork and make a few more policies and do a bit more health and safety checks and so on and so forth, we'll do that, because we need to keep going, because we are a school.
But also what's really important about it, even when you reflect to the core philosophy, we talk about freedom, not license. Freedom means responsibility as well. It means it means that you get the freedom, but you have to have those. And there was a lovely talk that happened yesterday, I think, or it might have been the day before. Sorry, my head over the past 2 days has suddenly disappeared a little bit. But with Akila and Zakia, and there was an amazing talk talking about community and responsibility to community to a certain extent. What does community mean to us was where the question was sort of going. And what I found really interesting, from Summerhill's perspective, we have freedom with responsibility to each other, but we have responsibility to community as well. And the kids, it's, they're all part of that. We've seen that many times when due to an inspection situation, and we needed to have filters on our internet. And what did we do? We took it to the kids, and they said, we just do it. Yeah, we just do whatever we need to do. It's no problem. That's the easy bit. That's, and as a community, everybody was very happy to have those conversations and to take those responsibilities on. Absolutely. And that's an interesting one. So even with the kids who sometimes they might, we know the wonderful and terrible way that kids will want a bit more freedom, and they're playing with the ball, they're pushing boundaries. That's part of the wonderful fulfillment of childhood that happens. But at the same time, there's that real lovely sense of responsibility when that comes about, and especially with community. It's a really
they would have done the same with the whole COVID thing, but of course we didn't have time to. We couldn't call a meeting. we got to get all these things in place in order to start our term. So within the the system that we had covered with COVID, there would be a few things where people would ask, well, will we be able to do that? And then we would go to our, well, you're one of the safeguarding team and say,
Yes.
you know, are we able to do that? Reading through all the government blurb, well, actually, no, we can't, but we can do it like that. So it still is, although the adults were making the decisions because we had to, it's obviously still a discussion point, and nobody's saying absolutely not. We're just explaining the situation. So.
But it's really nice that even reflecting in that same kind of way, we can reflect very beautifully back to the court case, where we had one of the biggest survival decisions that were made about Summerhill School, and we took it to the community. And there we were, sitting there in the Royal Courts of Justice with a community of 100 kids, and the way it went in the Summerhill drama is what actually happened. The judges stepped off and moved off. They stepped out, and one of our pupils went up onto the actual stand, and we made that decision as a community as well, because so things like that is also very interesting. Is how that obviously there's some things that are imposed upon us, and we need to very strongly protect the important things to us, but we also will give leeway to the bits we can give leeway to prioritize and to maintain, to help survive that core value and the wonderful freedoms and equalities that the community gains.
The court case thing was just interesting historically, because I think they would the clerk of the court was saying never in the history of the Royal Courts of Justice would a group of children be able to make.
Well, let alone would anybody, no one was allowed to sit in the judge's chair. I mean, the Royal Courts of Justice, the last thing is you can't have anyone else sitting in the judge's chair. And not only that, but actually kids went up and sat in the judge's chair. So that's that's a lovely sort of part of the history to.
So has anybody else got anything interesting or
to add? Yeah, please do open the microphone. Otherwise, me and Zoe talk about this a lot. Often we'll have a phone call, and we'll just want to catch up with each other, and in the end we spend an hour talking to each other about how we're changing the world, or how the world should be changing. So we'll stop. So please, if anybody has anything they'd like to share with us, if they want to add anything, if you have any questions or anything at all, please join us.
Yeah, Shelley says about that importance of sticking to principles by being pragmatic about the practicality. It is a tough balance to achieve, very tough, but part of the job.
Yeah, part of the job, exactly.
Henry, I will.
Yakov, yes, if you want to add something, yes, Yakov, of course.
I will say that first of all, to me, Summerhill was like unbelievably important, because I left school when I was 16. And when I left school, I feel terrible at school. But I thought that I'm the only person in the world that feel bad at school. And I don't know that it exists another people. Or for me, the format of schooling, I was sure that it's a mistake, but when you're alone and you think that it's a mistake, but only you see this mistake, you begin to think maybe something wrong in yourself, not in the system. And then I begin to meet the books, and in the front book was Summerhill, and that was like, wow. I'm not alone in the world. So, and that's took me to another book. And to me, I think that especially the basic Summerhill School book helped to a lot of youth like me in the 70s. And if I think about today, I don't know how many children that they are youth and they read Summerhill. I don't know, really don't know. But I feel, and also in the world of the democratic movement at all, that we are talking of, I don't know how to say, it's adults, and less talk that can connect to children and youth. And from moment to moment, it's less and less, because the youth and the young people is changing very dramatically. And so I think we can continue to do what we do, and it's good. I think I want to see Summerhill hundreds years from now. I want to see the democratic schools all over the world continue and growing. But if we want to talk about changing the world, it's jumping above this old education system. It's mean that thinking like this, and for example, and I know that it exists, but maybe more to see. In my mind, I see Summerhill books to 5-year-old, to 3 years old. So it will be stories from Summerhill to children that are 3 years old.
Yeah.
And to me, they're wonderful books. And then it will be to the youth, like Harry Potter in Summerhill. And I'm sure that I'm limited in my thinking, but I think we need to do a lot to bring the new generation to the step of thinking about education. It's exactly what you can see today with the climate change, with Goethe. What we see with Goethe is that they say, oh, you are the old people, the adults, stay outside. You really don't believe the situation today. And they make a huge revolution in the world. And I think I love what we are doing. I love all of you. I love Zoe. I love Henry. I love everyone that stay here. I love so much. All of you, you are my family. And we can continue, but we need to bring another level that it's the language of today. And I know that I don't know to speak English. Who know Hebrew, you know that I also don't know to speak Hebrew, but also I don't know to speak the young people language. And they have international language. I saw the kids around me. They are much internationally. And also what we try to do in the pandemic, we try to lead them and it's not working. I don't know the secret, but I think about books of, and I like the idea Summerhill books of Summerhill that go all over the world to
well, I remember
children of 5 years.
Yaakov, I remember we did a talk together not so long ago, and I remember you asked me the question of what do I think Summerhill will be like in 200 years on our 200th birthday, and I think I said roughly that it's going to be the same, but that children will be teleporting to other schools around the world or something like this. But anyway, there's someone else with a hand up here. Sorry, I've forgotten your name, your parent, Chinese parent, Irene's parent. Yes, do you want to say something? Yes, I've seen you had your hand up. Sorry, I forgot your name. You can, if you just unmute.
Joy?
Yeah, Joyunjia, the email address. Yes, yes. Yes, if you unmute, though, unmute, we can't hear you. Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, okay. I want to say something.
Yes.
So I think it's very meaningful to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Summerhill School, because for us, Summerhill is not just a school. It's the, you know, it's a phenomenon of the last you know, decade, not decade, 100 years. Okay, it's a new way of get children educated. It's a new way to bring up the children, you know, in a different environment. Children in the traditional schools, as you know, in China, they don't have the control of their learning, and the parents don't have the control of their learning. But the schools, they all, you know, they set standards of adults to, you know, to teach children, and the children, most of the Chinese children, they lose interest of true interest of learning in the school, because they don't have the control. I think Summerhill is a place where the children regain their control of their learning. They learn everything by themselves, by their intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
So so for me, it's a, you know, it's a different schooling. It's I think for the purpose of a school is to prepare children to be a parent, a successful adult, not to acquire knowledge as adults think they should have.
Yeah.
So I think in this, you know, in this meaning, Summerhill is a very should be a mainstream school, not an alternative school in the world. So I hope that the Summerhill school practice should expand to many other areas of the world. Should maintain in the next 100 years.
So no pressure, everybody who is a part of the Summerhill Festival of Childhood. But this is all of your job. We have to now make this the future of education globally.
Yes, yeah, we'll try our best.
No pressure, no pressure, everybody, no pressure. Yeah, okay.
Actually pressure. Yeah.
Actually pressure, okay, actually pressure. Right, sorry. So I was saying no pressure, but Zoe is giving you pressure, so you have no choice.
We don't have pressure for our children.
Yeah.
We don't give pressure to our children.
Exactly, yeah, excellent.
Put pressure
Okay,
to ourselves.
yeah, we've got Sabrina in the chat. Oh, sorry, yes, okay, Sabrina has a question here. Question from you. Parents' overwhelming concern in our community as young people get older is, will self-directed living in childhood result in economically?
Yeah, I just read that question actually, and well, actually, there's a session with ex-pupils tomorrow, I believe.
Yes.
So I think it'll probably be worth going to that and asking questions.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
I think that, you know, we've never seen a situation where we've had contact from our previous pupils where, you know, life has gone wrong for them because they can't sustain themselves and they don't have jobs. I mean, one of the things that this kind of education, and I keep mentioning Summerhill, but I don't just mean Summerhill, I mean this kind of education, it gives people a real creativity and, you know, makes great entrepreneurs. I mean, we have children here now who open shops to sell sweets to the other children and they make quite a lot of money out of it, but they're not cheating them in any way. They're not being out of order. It's just that that's what they want to do. So I think it's I think because of that creativity and that ability to take responsibility for your own actions, you know, I remember hearing a Summerhillian talk who was here in the 1930s, and she said, oh, you know, when I was at Summerhill, I didn't learn to read, and she was kind of complaining a little bit. And my thoughts as a Summerhillian was, well, go and do it then. I mean, just because you're 50 doesn't mean you can't learn to read. So I was just thinking, what is she talking about? Oh, poor me, I didn't learn to read. Well, it's only one body's work to do it. And I would say kind of the same thing, you know, if you haven't got the qualifications you want for your chosen path, then either get the qualifications or do something else. And I think Summerhill people are very good. I mean, my granddaughter, who's at university in London this summer, was cleaning toilets at a festival. You know, I mean, she was cool with that. She wanted a bit of money. And so it's about being prepared to be adaptable and getting on with your life.
I think also what is really important to mention about it as well, and we don't really ever do statistics on things like this,
No.
but we have the broadest, to a certain extent, celebrating the wonderful individuality that we all are. We have people who are doing absolutely everything.
I know, amazing.
And it doesn't, there isn't any difference there, really. You know, it's so broad and it's so individual, and from that
sometimes so
perspective,
surprising too. You get some pupils and you just think, you know, they're going that way, and then they come back and visit you 10 years later and they've gone that way. You think, what?
Yeah, that changing the path.
No,
but it's true that, well, let's come back to that, because Sabrina, we recommend that you come to the session tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, because we're actually talking to ex-pupils of the school. I'll come to Richard. No, I'll come to you in just a second, but I'm going to go to Richard. He had his hand up for a bit longer. So Richard first, if you want to.
Yes, thanks, Henry. And Zoe, I so totally agree with you that why is this not happening? It just seems like common sense.
Yeah.
And we've got to get it out in the world. Yakov, what you were saying about approaching the young, getting the young involved, I think that's really key. Youth from the Youth X Youth group, that's where I got the little saying that youth are the generation we've been waiting for. Yeah. And so there's an energy there to build on. I would say that we must not let that be the case, that we all have to be the generation that we've been waiting responsibility of cleaning up our mess. Mm. The talk by Kate yesterday, where she talked about the unmovables, the movables, and the movers. Yeah. I would say that the people here joining the Summerhill Festival are the movers. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we know what we need. We don't pin it down. As you said, Summerhill is evolving. It responds to the community that it's serving at any particular time, and it has the capacity to typical system doesn't have. And so our task right now is not to keep trying to define what it is. We do need to keep doing that in relation to the day, but we know what we need, and as I don't know how to say your name, but how to make Summerhill mainstream, that's our problem now. How do we get that out there? And I would say that if we focus on what Kate said, the movables and the movers, us as movers, look at the movables and start engaging them. I've been in this for 50 years, like John Laughlin, I think is his name, where it's said in the Facebook page that he watched the era of the 60s when this movement began. I think you would agree the movement began well before that, certainly 100 years ago and before, but we haven't made progress. I look at where we were in 1960, and we're pretty much in the same
losing you a little bit.
Spot.
Sorry, Richard, we've lost you a little bit, I think.
And
we're losing.
And I blame ourselves.
Losing the sound, Richard.
That we've been too busy defining us in local communities. We've got to spend some of our time. Are you hearing me now?
It's coming and going a little bit. You're sounding a little bit broken up.
Yeah. Carry on now. We had you back a little bit, I think. No. Okay. We'll move on. Richard, we'll move on.
How is that?
No, we did well.
Maybe I can use your computer. I'm not sure why. Locating differently. Can you hear me?
A possibility is you could turn the video off. That might help to improve the signal a little bit. You could try that.
Yeah, let me try that. Are you hearing me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
And I'll go to chat to wrap up if this happens
Cool.
again. But what I would like to say
Yeah, that's happened again.
is
No.
that we have to focus more and not to detract from what we're doing, but focus more on reaching out to the movables. I'll put it in chat.
Yeah, I think so, Richard. Please do that. We'll carry on, but please do put it in the chat. And Apurva.
Yeah, so like Yako was also talking about the Summerhill book. So for me, Summerhill was a moment, and I just got to, I would say, I'll go back 2 years, and I was in college, and I was actually studying as a teacher. So, and I hated that. Like, I hated my school as a student, and then being educated as a teacher is what I hated even more. It was like, what sin have I committed that I go through this hell now? What is this karma that is coming back to me? And then I was really not interested in any of that. And one day, one of my professor, she just came in and she gave us choices, and she said that anyone can do a presentation on this book, and you can choose to do that in any way, and this will not be graded. And the moment that she said that it won't be graded was a realization for me that I really want to do it now because it won't be graded, and I'm not in that race. So I picked up the book, and with a friend I just went the other day and made some memes on the Summerhill book, and when I read it the night before, I was crying, and it felt like a hug that that came to me from time and space, you know, traveling throughout that, and came to me, and I went to it too. So the next day I just went back to college, and all the other people were showing PPTs and pointers, and what I did would be, I think, the spirit of Summerhill. I just owned that, and I presented some memes, and my classmates, they all just laughed, and we just had a conversation about how freedom and, you know, choices and love could just make learning so much more.
Yeah, good, cool.
Amazing, yeah.
I'd quite like to just say something about Marcus. I'll come in after Marco.
Yeah, sure. Amazing, Apurva. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. A lovely story.
I just want to add a little bit more about how we were talking about taking Summerhill even further. So then after that, I also went for an expressive arts intervention in Tihar jail in Delhi, India, and I was working with the inmates, and the idea of expressive arts there became as if a beacon of hope, and they started to feel free even inside the jail. And then my mind sort of made an analogy of how we feel in a jail, in a conventional school, and how
lovely,
absolutely,
how we need these interventions of freedom in our schools, also in the mainstream schools. So if we could just go one day like a trickster to a mainstream school and just give them this intervention of freedom in any way that we would want, and let them interact with us in any way that they would want, and then come up with some magic, then it would be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, Nana, who did you want to respond to?
I just wanted to respond to a degree with what Yakov was just saying. Just a quick thing about Neil, and because it's
let's do that, and then we'll come to you, Nana. If you just wait a little second, so let's just do that whilst it's still
just
relevant.
thinking about that, we're talking about the whole centenary, and it's 100 years. You know, it was interesting, Yakov, what you were saying about feeling alone. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years with the mails that I get about Summerhill, but certainly the ones that my dad used to get, particularly in the 60s when Summerhill was published in America, so many people were saying that same thing. I felt so alone until I read your book. And then I read your book and I realized that I'm not alone, that there are people out there who have that idea. And I think that's been, you know, it's been carrying on the whole way. People feel like, I've got these ideas, I've got this feeling that there should be something different, and then they come across A.S.Neill's books and they go, oh my goodness, someone else has thought of it. But the other thing that I think is so amazing, and I just love it, is that people are still reading Neill's book. I mean, his book was a compilation, the book Summerhill was a compilation of many of his books. He was born in 1883. I mean, he was a Victorian, for goodness sake. It was the Victorian era. And some of the language he used and some of the things that he talked about were definitely not what you would consider to be PC, politically correct, in this day and age. And yet everybody just sees what he means, and that he's not, you know, anti-gay, and he's not being against women or anything, just because he's mentioning that girls like to play with dolls and boys like to go in the woodwork, you know. And it's just lovely that people see where he's coming from. And yet this is such a dated book. If you read it, you go, oh my goodness, it's such old-fashioned language and so on. But still people are reading it and loving it and understanding it. And I think that's just great.
Because it's quite simple again.
It's very simple, it is. But it's a truth too.
Yeah. I'm just quickly going to mention a very small thing that was just being mentioned. Oh no, I've just forgotten it. No, yes, it's talking about those small bits of change that can be happening. I think it's Apurva that mentioned it. There's an organization called Oasis Movement in India, and they do some absolutely beautiful work with this, where people are just experiencing, sometimes they don't have a long period of time, they're experiencing a bit of trust, a bit of freedom and that sort of thing, and getting these amazing bits of change that are then happening and sort of cascading to a certain extent, and sort of building a lovely sort of movement of and this sort of thing is amazing. There's so much little things that can come from simple things. And I think that a lot of when we talk about Summerhill, or the idea of Summerhill, the very simple, the bestowal of love is the, you know, and only love can save the world. I mean, it's so small and so simple, really. And the beauty of that, I think, is what's so, and I guess I think from my perspective, almost coming to where the idea of this festival came from, that we're creating unity around those simple things. We're talking about methodologies, of course we are. We've all got those, and we want to have lots of schools be very different. We want the diversity, we need to have all that, but we need to create unity around that simple thing. And we need to take small steps, but solid steps in the direction to be making those changes. And I think that that's something that we are all doing. And that's what I love about it, to a certain extent, that it's a movement. It's, you know, what's happening, it's gradual, but it's solid. It's going to start to become more immovable, and it's going to build, and it's going to build, and all of the, and that's what I think is different a little bit from what you were saying about the book of people being alone. Now there's many more places where people can reach out, but I'm just feeling that we need to get everybody together to be doing that. And I think that that's where the change, that's where the change needs to happen, because it needs to be solid.
Well, we all work on that, but it's really useful to have Summerhill with its 100 years as the big truck at the front. Just
well, it helps us have that. Of course, you've got
so
that.
Summerhill's the big truck, and you can all do the things you want, but you can go back to the main truck if you need to.
Exactly.
I think Nana was going.
Nana, yes, of course. And I can see we've got two. Obviously, Marco and Cess will come to you too. Well, how are we doing for time?
We can do it on if we want. There's a free slot.
There's a free slot afterwards. Are we okay? Until we can go a bit longer. All right. Okay. Lovely. So Nana, please.
I was just going to ask two questions, which I will, but because of what you just said, and from my experience from students and children in Greece. Another thing that will bring the change is the kids themselves. At least in my country, there are so many dead ends with teachers. They don't know what to handle, how to handle the situation. So we mustn't forget that kids themselves will force schools to make the changes that we're talking about. This is just adding to what you said. I have two questions that I would like to know, because I was at Summerhill a long time ago. When I was there, kids could contact their parents from 2 telephones, 2 landline telephones, and they couldn't contact them all the time. I'm very interested to know that now that they all have their mobiles, what exactly is happening and what changes do you see? Because now they can contact their mummies and daddies every half hour and talk about things. How has that affected what really happens at Summerhill? Because in the past, they couldn't do that, so they had to do more on their own and, of course, with the support of the staff. So that's a very important question I have for what's happening nowadays. And the second, very quickly, and that's it, is about, because kids today are more without boundaries, how the school handles and what can the school tell us about these new kinds of kids who are, in the past, kids were under authoritarian parents and children and teachers. Nowadays, we've gone to the other extreme. These 2 questions, please. Thank you. And thank you to everybody. And thank you for running Summerhill, because I know it's been a very, very, very Herculean task. Well done to you. We are very grateful. Lots of love.
I would just say, hi, Nana. I would just say that those 2 questions are actually quite difficult to answer in a forum like this. The parenting issue is the reason I wrote my book, so we could talk about that tomorrow if you wanted to turn up. The issue of the telephones is again, it's about Summerhill adapting to, you know, to life as it is. And yes, it has caused enormous problems and still continues to do so with some children at some time. You know, if you've watched the Summerhill drama, the CBBC drama called Summerhill, that's actually quite funny because the mum keeps phoning the daughter all the time, but actually we do actually, you know, they say reality mimics art, and yes, it does happen, and we do have parents who keep phoning their children, not necessarily to ask them if they're going to classes, but, you know, always just to see how they're doing and so on. And yes, it does inhibit. So we have to do a bit of ducking and weaving to try and make sure that our community is able to carry on doing the fun kind of play things. And that's not implying in any way that parents are a negative thing, but when children are trying to get on with their life and they're outside playing and somebody phones up and starts talking, it is a negative thing because the children actually need at that time to be getting on with their own life. So it's about Summerhill adapting over that 100 years to things that
but it's true. I think if you don't mind, Nana, my feeling is that actually that's something that we can, because tomorrow we have questions with ex-pupils. We're talking to Zoe about her book. We have a Q&A session with staff, and we have a Q&A session with pupils. So I think that's better to come to those tomorrow rather than today. We're talking about the centenary and the celebration sort of thing. So let's go to Marco in the corner. First of all, Marco, I have to give you love. Marco is the man really who has actually put all of the work in creating the open space thing that you are all using to be doing this. So Marco, first of all, needs a round of applause and about all of the love we can possibly give in the whole world. So before you speak, Marco, not to embarrass you, but we love you more than anything in the whole world, basically. So, but now you can speak, Marco. We'll let you speak. Yes.
Yeah, I'm the guy who can be blamed.
It's all Marco's fault. It's all Marco's fault.
So just a very quick thought, because we live in a society where there's so many things going wrong, and that's where our attention easily goes. I guess that's because we are just human. But we also live in a time when there's so many exciting things happening and things that give us so many different possibilities to do things that I just wanted to remind everyone that if we just can keep our mind in a positive place and be excited about the future, I think that's could be a critical point to think about.
Yeah, very good point.
Spot
Very
on,
good point.
spot
Yeah,
on, yeah.
love there, love there. Cool. Thank you so much, Marco. Seth, lovely to see you, Seth. I haven't seen you much throughout the festival so far, but you're one of the key volunteer members, and so I do see you quite a lot, but it's just lovely to see you. And also because of the time zone, you're in Australia, so lovely, really lovely
What
to
time
see
is
you.
it in Australia?
You're muted, Seth. You're muted at the moment.
Yeah, it's still muted.
No, 1 second. It's coming. It's coming. Yes. No, you're back muted again. Seth, you keep muting and unmuting.
Is that done now?
Yes, we've got you. Yes.
Right. Sorry about that. I have a very ancient computer like me. I didn't get a chance the other night to say congratulations to you, Henry and Zoe. And I wasn't prepared for the champagne. So I brought along my red wine, Henry.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, I'll give you a toast with my water bottle. I'll give you a toast with my water bottle. Thank you so much, Seth. Thank you.
Say congratulations on the celebrations. And it's been wonderful to work with you all on this, even from afar. I have been around, Henry, in the festival, just in a different time zone.
I know, exactly, yeah.
Yes, so I just wanted to say Summerhill was very influential for me when I was first doing all my teacher training, because that was in the late 60s. And there were lots of wonderful education things happening, but in Australia, Karambina was just starting at that time as well. And so the two things coalesced really, and it informed my whole life as a learner and teacher from then on. And eventually I got to actually work at Karambina, and Virginia, one of the teachers, long-standing teachers there, her mantra when I first went there was, ask the kids. Whenever you're stumped, ask the kids. And I think just to support what Yakov was saying too about trying to find a way for the new world, and this sometimes pretty scary world, really. I worry for what we're leaving the kids to face, really. But I trust, like Marco said, in their capacity to find a way. And while we're still here, for us to stand behind them, we've been, we've stuffed things up a little bit while being in front. And I think it's now time to really hand over and ask them. Anyway, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seth. Thank you so much.
Love to you both. And Wendy asked me especially to pass on her love to you as well.
Oh, so much love to her as well, and her family and all of you there. It's so lovely when I came over there, and Karabina as well, and so much love and wishes for Karabina. It was 50 years when a few years ago they were celebrating their 50th birthday as a school. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
for about 2 days
really
or
amazing.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, really amazing. Good. Okay, right.
Well, I think we can sum up by saying, good to celebrate the 100. See you at the 200th.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just make sure you eat your vitamins, and we should be able to see you in the 200. That should be fun. Yakov?
No, I say see you soon. Let's meet more like every 100 minutes or every
okay.
Days.
Celebrate 100 by getting together every 100 minutes.
Yeah, but don't forget that next year we're going to have a festival, and it's going to not latitude,
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury. So you all need to bring your sleeping bags, and you're all going to get soaking wet because this is England and it will rain. I'm sure of that.
So, I'm glad you're selling it well.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's not how you sell the festival.
That's what people go to festivals for. They go to festivals to get wet and have fun, and so it will be fun.
And also,
it might be wet, but it'll be lovely to see everybody.
And also for organizer brownie points, I'm going to mention that there's actually a discount, a 15% discount to buy tickets for the in-person festival happening in 2022.
Whoa.
If you buy them during this online festival. Whoa. That was my promote. Sorry, that was a note. Sorry, but please, I can see Kata going crazy in the background.
You can't take credit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Giles was the one who posted that in. I just also want to very quickly mention Gina. I saw that Gina Riley mentioned something in the post. I don't know if you're still with us, Gina, but I missed your session earlier. But it was really lovely to have you a part of the festival, and it was lovely to. There's a few different situations where we've met you. But just thank you so much for your comment. It was just, I saw it above earlier and it was just really warm, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
I mean, I know there's not that,
there's
not the, you know, not everybody's here, and I will write a thank you to everybody, but I feel particularly bad because you may or may not know that I'm not very well, and the treatment I'm having makes me feel pretty rough sometimes. So I haven't been able to go to lots of talks just because I can't really sit for an hour or something and watch something because it makes me poorly. So if I've missed your talk, I will catch up on later on when it's online, I hope. And it's just been lovely for everybody to be coming and doing the talks. And I wish I could have gone to all of you, but I send love to everybody anyway.
Cool. Exactly. Good. All right then. So on that note, we'll call
Over
it a
and
day.
out.
So lots of love to everybody. Enjoy the rest of the festival. In a couple of hours, we're going to have live music performing from Summerhill with pupils, present-day pupils, and ex-pupils, and we're going to bring your party pants, clear some dance floor space. You know, I put your coffee down, otherwise you'll spill your coffee, and get your boogie on, basically.
Yeah.
So do come and join us for that as well. So lots of love to you all, and we have lots of lovely sessions for tomorrow as well, as we mentioned earlier. Lots of love. Thank you all so much for coming.